Hi, this is Tommy Dee, and as you know, we've had the pleasure of interviewing numerous musicians on Fabulous 103 over the years, but there comes a time when you have the chance to interview somebody that you actually adored when you were a teenager. Introduced to me by my very good friend Len Tuckey as his former partner in music, we meet the rock queen who, throughout the years and right up to today, has been entertaining thousands of people, in fact tens of thousands of people, none other than the queen of rock herself, the Miss Suzi Quatro. Tommy Dee from Fabulous 103. She's not my guest, I'm her guest this morning with Suzi Quatro. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
This is my biggest thrill. Not only are you my friend, but also, I've been a fan of yours since I was very young.
Very little?
I know which question not to start with, so we're not
But you may.
Oh, yeah. What was it like to be the first woman? We're not going to go there.
No, I will. I don't mind.
My question for you, my first question is, most musicians reach a stage in life where they retire. And some of them retire with lots of money and some of them retire broke. What's gone wrong with your life that you're still touring today after 60 years?
And I'm not broke, obviously. I do my job because I love my job. I don't need the money. I haven't needed the money for many years. I'm not a frivolous person, although I live very well. I don't waste. I was taught that way, one of 5 kids. I can't not do what I do. It's more than a job to me. It's, to get corny about it, it's what I was put on this earth to do.
The way of life.
I was supposed to entertain people. I was supposed to inspire people. I was supposed to love people. It's just what I'm supposed to do. So for me not to do it, I'd be 6 foot under.
So we've gone from when you first became well known, glam rock, now to gran rock. Because you've just come back from Australia, done a mega tour there. We'll talk about that later on. Do you still get the same thrill when you go on stage?
If I didn't get that thrill, that feeling, I wouldn't do it anymore. I've said to my husband, who's always wanted me to retire, although I think it's a double-edged sword, because I had this famous saying for many, many years. It's followed me around my life. 35 was the first time I answered a question when a journalist said, when are you going to retire? And I said, when I get up on stage, turn my back, shake my ass at the audience, and there's silence. Then I stop.
Never happened. They still are looking at you. When you shake it, they still look.
But I've changed my bar now. I said to my husband, okay, I got a new one. He said, what? I said, if I ever go on that stage and I have to conjure up a smile and I can't deliver to my personal level of deliverance and perfection, and I'll know it, the next day I'm retired.
And you're still playing the hits, the fast hits?
Sure. I do 2-hour show with interval, sometimes 2.5 hours, and that's a big show.
So 60-odd years ago, so the story, the legend goes, Mickey Most went to America, sees you playing with your sisters, and plucks you from obscurity. First of all, how jealous were the sisters?
Well, it's actually documented in my book and my documentary. The one sister that had the most trouble with it, understandably, was my elder sister, Patty, because she began the band. So she was always for an all-girl band to make it. So, and we've talked that through millions of times. She went on after that to join Fanny, and she does a lot of stuff with him now and blah, blah. The younger one wasn't really madly in love with the business, so it didn't really bother her that much. The older one was a serial marriage person. She's on number 7 now.
Wow.
But there was initially that.
Why is it Suzi? Why has the little one got the job?
Yeah, and that was there, and I knew it would be when I left. I knew that this was going to happen when I left.
Do you think you were chosen because you play bass?
No. Mickey came to the gig. It was a Cradle at that time. It was Pleasure Seekers first, and then we changed to Cradle, and we changed our format, and we started to write our own material. We were a show band, the Pleasure Seekers, and I was the main person. I did 99% of the singing and playing. And then we brought my little sister in, changed the whole format, and got heavier. And because we got heavier, my band wasn't suited for the heavy song, my voice. So my little sister started to sing, great singer. And this is the band that Mickey saw. I was pushed to the back a little bit.
Right.
For like 18 months. I just became mainly the bass player. I did 2 or 3 songs a night instead of everything.
Bass because it was easier to play with 4 strings than 6?
No. I was never a failed guitar player. Never. And I can't stand it when I see bass players playing with a pick because I think you didn't make it on guitar. No. I play classical piano. I can read and write.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sit down, do anything you want to hear. Schubert, Bach, Mozart, whatever you want. And I read and write percussion and play percussion. I was in the school orchestra, first chair in the drum section, which means I was the best. So when I was given the bass in the Pleasure Seekers, every girl chose an instrument. We decided to form a band. We were on the phone after the Beatles on TV, and everybody picked an instrument real quick, and I didn't speak. And my elder sister said, I just said, hey, what about me? And she said, oh, you can play bass. So I started on bass. I didn't go from guitar to bass.
Right.
Not a failed guitar player. And I'm a hell of a bass player, too.
You made that clear to me, why don't you?
But anyway, Mickey saw the band, and he was there with Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell to record at Motown. So he saw the gig. It calls me back to the thing. I only did 2 songs that night. I remember coming up, I knew he was there, and I came up to the microphone and I said, here's one I wrote, all attitude, here's one I wrote. And I did a song called Brain Confusion. And then I went into Jailhouse Rock.
Oh, okay.
And then he came after me, he said, you went like that, I want to take you to England. So he said he spotted me. He said, Jeff Beck apparently turned him and said, bass player. And Mickey said, Jeff told me this. And Mickey said, I've already spotted her. She's the one.
So you had to go home after this?
But I didn't know anything. Nobody told me anything. I knew he liked me.
Right.
I didn't know that he was going to. He didn't offer me a contract right away. He just was kind of like very shady about it all. I didn't know what he wanted. He just said, "Why don't you come to Motown with us and record?" And see the session. So I said, "Yeah," and I went down. This is in my documentary, by myself, with Mickey and Jeff and Cozy. We went to Motown, and we went down in the pit, and I jammed on with Jeff and Cozy. I picked up the bass.
Wow.
Jameson's bass. Unbelievable. Anyway, it was about a half a year later when the band started to kind of break up a little bit that I finally heard that Mickey had flown my brother Mickey, who was acting as manager-ish of Cradle, into New York after seeing the band, and telling him he wanted to offer me a solo contract.
Wow.
And nobody told me.
So let's just get, at some point, Mickey Mo said to you, right, Suzi, I want you to come and work with me in my stable.
But that was until...
You had to go home to your family, to your mum, your dad, your sisters,
Yes.
and say, good news and bad news. The good news is I've got a contract. The bad news is you haven't. That must have gone down like a lead balloon.
It was when the band was breaking up. And I was real upset, and everybody was it just wasn't happening. And I went to my sister, Arlene, and she said, oh, call Mickey Most. I said, why? I've been sending him Cradle stuff for the past few months, and da-da-da. She said, he wanted you. And I went, he did? And that was the first time I heard about it. So months later, I could have missed my shot. I did call Mickey, and that's when he said, I actually do only just want you. And if you're finally ready to come terrific, I'm offering you a contract.
So you flew into London. You'd never been to England before. You're a Detroit girl, so at least you're used to cities, but it's a completely different city. You land in London, a strange city, you don't know anybody. How old are you?
21.
So you're 21, in a strange city, the only person you know is Mickey Most, and you only know him because you've met him a couple of times. Must have been quite intimidating.
Not intimidating, it was lonely.
Really?
Yeah. I found it lonely, but I knew, even though I found it lonely, I mean, I'd left my home, I left my family, everything, in a little tiny hotel room, about as big as this placemat was the bed. No toilet, just a sink, really, a sink with a cracked mirror over it.
You can see it today.
Yes. I knew when I came over that I wasn't going back.
Right.
That this was my destiny. And I had to do the big thing that you talked about with my mom and dad in the bedroom. And I'd also had an offer from Elektra Records within the same week to go solo. And they also had seen the band. So the universe is shouting at you, this is your time to go.
Right, absolutely.
Things like that don't happen. But I went into the room with my mom and dad. And I said, I've had 2 offers. One to go to New York with Elektra Records, and one to go to London with Mickey Most. And I'm going to take the English offer. And my mom started to cry because she wouldn't see me anymore. You know, I'm across the so. And my dad said something to me that stayed with me my whole life. He said, you do realize, a big thing to put on my shoulders, you do realize that your sisters won't make it without you. And I just went, Dad, I have to go.
Yeah.
I took it in, and I kind of went, okay, but that's not my job.
Right.
To bring them all with me. If I've been picked out by 2 different people in the same week, this is obviously my destiny. So I had to treat it as such. My destiny, emotionally, very hard, but professionally, I'm going there. I'm going there.
We're now in the UK. We're 21 years old. We're staying in a rather damp, basic bedsit with a toilet down the hallway. Did you start recording straight away?
Yes. Mickey, I came over with 35 songs
that I'd written.
Yeah, that I'd written on a cassette, playing little bits and pieces, and Mickey, we sat on the desk there in Oxford Circus, and he pressed to play, and he went, every 5 seconds, he put the next track, the next track. Finally, he found one called Ain't You Something Honey. It was only a little bit of a song, just like 10 seconds, and he stopped the tape, and he went, that's the one you work on, because that's you.
But he never did anything?
Yeah, we went to the studio then pretty quickly. We had quite a few songs to go in with, and we had Big Jim Sullivan on guitar, Ellen Whitehead from Yes on drums, Rabbit, who's a very known keyboard player in the UK, and myself on bass. Even Peter Frampton did a session with me. He was on Rolling Stone, my first single. So yeah, we did record. We recorded.
But these singles did nothing.
The Rolling Stone was a #1 in Portugal.
Oh, great. I mean, all of a sudden, for people like me, the kids, appears on Top of the Pops, Suzi Quatro. Who's Suzi Quatro? There she is. It's like, wow.
It's shock, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have a song, Can the Can. And there's you. We'll go back to how this put together in a minute. From what I understand from Lenny, he was in another band. He just finished gigging. He got a phone call from Mickey Most saying, you've got to come down and see this girl. And he said, when? They said, now.
Oh, no, that was his drummer friend who's passed away. He was the drummer on Can the Can, Keith Hodge. Brilliant drummer. And he left a week before the record came out. Lenny was a friend of his. And I was over at Keith's house, and we had just lost our American guitar player. We were a trio. And he called Len. He kept bugging me. Can I call my friend? I said, I don't want your friend in the band. Yet he said, please. I said, okay. Lenny came on an underground. He must have had a sense of destiny, too.
I understood he came on the underground. He came from one side of the city to the other.
He arrived at about midnight.
Yeah.
And I was on the ground playing Scrabble, and I ignored him. Then I looked at these green boots, and I went up these legs that were on forever, up, 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 up. I liked what I saw, up, 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 up. Finally got to the face, and I saw this frightening-looking big man with big bushy beard and long hair, and then he smiled, and he lit up the room.
So it wasn't because he could play guitar. You took him on for his looks.
No, I just liked him.
Very difficult not to like.
There was something about him. And then we went down to at about 1 a.m, we went to our normal rehearsal place. And I said, okay, let's see what you got. Chuck Berry. So we played Johnny B. Good or something. And I'd found my guitar player because a lot of people can play Chuck Berry, but very few people get it right. And he got it right.
Right.
So he was in my band.
So we have Can the Can.
Yeah.
Years ago, you did an interview where somebody asked you what 48 Crash was about, and you said it was the male menopause.
It is.
So now we know what 48 Crash was all about. What the hell was Can the Can?
Nobody knows.
When
What the hell was Can the Can?
Nobody knows.
You must know.
Well,
you must have said to Mike Chapman at one time,
I think...
Go on, just tell me.
I know. I think, because he always tried to tailor the songs that he wrote for me, because mainly I write my own stuff, but the stuff that he wrote for me, he would try to tailor it to my personality and way of speaking. And in America, there's a phrase called can it.
Can it? Yeah, finish it. Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah. So I think that must have been where he got that can it from. Can the can. Put your man in the can and he can it. I used to say it a lot. So I think he took that phrase and made it into a catchy. He was good at it.
Yeah, he was a very good songwriter.
Yeah, very good songwriter.
You and Lenny wrote a lot of songs yourself.
Oh, yeah.
There must have been a stage where, because a lot of them were very good. I have a favourite, an absolute favourite.
Which one?
Hollywood should have been a single.
That's
just an amazing song.
Andrew Lloyd Webber's favorite song. Our songs were well known. Our album tracks were very, very popular. They were played on all the radio stations. And we always had the B-sides. But we had the arrangement with Mike and Nikki that they would provide the 3-minute single.
So much they were the hit makers.
So much
hit
so
writers.
That when and Mike always said this thing about putting a great track on the B-side. So he would say, as we were recording one of our songs for the B-side, and Hollywood was a B-side, I think. He'd say,
"No, okay, you swore at the end of it. That's what
I did."
Yeah,
he would put something, an extra bar or an extra drum beat or something a little bit strange, so that it wouldn't be flipped by the radio stations.
Right.
So purposely, our songs were not made as singles, but I've had singles since. Everything of mine has been since. Mama's Boy, that was out. That was one of mine. Michael was out in Australia. Glycerin Queen was out in Australia.
Who was?
I think Hollywood.
She's in Love with You.
No, that's Mike.
That was, yeah.
That's Mike. Yeah. And now since 2006, I've done nothing but write my own.
You write all your own lyrics now.
Everything. I've
the thing a lot of people won't realise is
lyrics and music. I do both.
Constantly coming out with new CDs.
Oh God, yeah. Look at the KT one was just out.
It's amazing.
What an amazing album.
And you have an amazing guitarist who is like a clone of his father, which is your son.
He is like a clone.
Yes.
When he plays on some of the tracks, we're 2 albums in now, and we're working on a 3rd one. I swear that's Lenny.
Same as me. When I heard it, the first one I heard.
It's the way Lenny plays.
I heard the first one I heard with Lenny. We sat in a car. You just recorded it. And I said to Lenny, I said, "You're on this?" He goes, "No, that's Richard," which was amazing. So, Chin and Chapman writing your songs for you. You're travelling backwards and forwards. You go to the States. You didn't get heavily promoted in the States. The rumour was that management was very scared of any band doing well in the States because they would lose control of their artists.
Mickey was frightened for me to make it back in my home country because he thought I would leave. But also he kept, I think Mickey's mistake was he kept changing record labels. So they didn't build up that longevity and let's build Suzi. Right. So every release came out on a different label, so that didn't help. And also, as Mike Chapman says in the documentary, there was that little 1.5, 2-year period where I was really having hits huge everywhere that America didn't get. And Mike said, for some reason, this little style here missed America. It just did.
And
it missed it. I don't know
figured out why.
Never figured out why. But then I went into Happy Days. That's what changed my fortunes there. I mean, I always toured there from 74 onwards. I toured every year, and I did very well, and my album sold very well. And I had lower end of the chart hits. All Shook Up got into the charts. Can the Can got in. The albums got in. A lot of airplay, a lot of gigs. So everybody knew me. I just didn't have the single success there. And when we went there to play, I had to do all my own stuff because nobody knew
the hits.
Yeah. So, and that was great.
Wow,
Totally different show. Fantastic. But when I did Happy Days, that escalated me into the top of the field.
Henry Winkler, nice guy?
Great guy.
Always comes across as a nice guy.
I'm on email with him all the time. And Ron Howard. Those are the two people
Ron's done, but he's done exceptionally well for himself.
I've remained friends with, yeah.
Word has it that the guy that played the father wasn't the easiest person to get on with.
I got along fine with Tom. He's passed away now. He could be thorny. That's the word I use. Prickly.
Everybody would like to ask you this question. I don't know. I mean, you do interviews day in, day out. You are the queen of interviews. Suzi Quatro comes on stage, and there she is. Blonde hair hanging down, attitude, big bass bigger than her, dressed in a black catsuit, basically, made of leather. Mm. How long are you on stage for?
And now I'm doing...
In those days?
Back then, at least an hour and a half.
Okay, so you're an hour and a half, under lights.
Boiling.
Working your what's-its off.
Yep.
How the hell did you get the suit off afterwards?
You have to peel it off.
Literally peel it off. Yeah. Somebody had to peel it off for
Lenny
you.
and I were a team from 72, the Slade tour. That's when we fell in love, and we were together from then on. And he would literally have to go in the room with me and peel it off, bit by bit. And it sticks because it's leather, and then you turn it inside out. There's a certain spray you spray it with, and you let it dry. I know, it's crazy. Then you get into the same suit the next night, you go, oh, God. And now, of course, I've been married to Ronda for 30 years. His job is now to peel it off.
So did you never think to yourself, okay, I've done the leather now, let's just go into something a bit easier?
No.
No, because that is Suzi Quatro, isn't it?
It makes me laugh, though, that I picked the heaviest instrument and this hottest outfit.
You have got the heaviest. I've held your guitar. It's a very, very heavy bass.
Yeah, they are. But I don't notice it.
A lot of musicians today, or certainly in the last 40 years, have said that they were motivated by Suzi Quatro. Now, there's no two ways about it. There's Suzi Quatro, the image, the rock star, highly qualified musician, absolutely no doubt about it. But who influenced you?
Back in the day, my first light bulb moment was Elvis Presley, and I was 5.5, and it's a very famous story, but and I don't embellish it. 5.5, watching the Ed Sullivan Show with the family, because it was the religion. You sat down 8 o'clock and you watched Ed Sullivan as a family. And the last thing he would bring on was something for the youngsters. I'm 5.5. I have to keep stressing that. On comes Elvis Presley doing Don't Be Cruel. And I'm like looking at the TV, watching this for the youngsters. And my elder sister, by 9 years, she starts to scream.
To scream at the television?
Yeah. And I'm going, so what's the matter with you? You know, why are you? And then I would turn back to the TV, and I remember like falling into it. I fell into the TV. And in my little 5.5-year-old brain, I said, I'm going to do that.
But what about the bass?
The
bass, a lot of people play the bass dum 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 to keep the beat.
No,
you don't.
I play.
But there had to be people that impressed you, that influenced you, that made you...
Jameson from Motown.
Really?
Yeah, big time. I would find myself listening to the bass a lot when I heard music. Bass and BVs. And Motown was great on both. And the main thing, actually, was when we took our family trips. Because 5 kids, it's too much to take on a train or a plane, too expensive. So we went in the car. And when we were all in the car, all 5 kids, big station wagon, and we would always do sing-songs. You know, we would go from Michigan down to Florida, Michigan to California, and we'd do sing-songs. And all of us would have a part that we would go to as siblings do. And my dad was always in the front seat driving, and he'd be going, doom, da-doom, 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 doom, doom, da-doom. And I go, oh. My little head, I went, he's got the best part. So and I play piano, that's a percussive instrument, and I play percussion.
Right.
So I am geared towards that
But
way.
there must have been, so you start off playing bass, and you're competent enough to play in a band. We'll talk in a minute, but I happen to know that you're an extremely competent bass player. There had to be people that you were so influenced by that you thought to yourself, I want to be like that. There had to be people that you were working, aspiring to be as good as...
Yeah, sure. We all have that. Like I said, Jameson was my main counterpoint because I'm a Motown girl, and he was the bass player. You don't get a better bass player than Jameson. And in fact, the early 60s Motown, There is no rhythm section better than the one that they used.
Right.
That doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. So he was a big influence because I grew up with the music. And I remember we did a gig in Seattle, Washington with the Pleasure Seekers. I was 18. Big teen festival, they called it. A lot of acts on the bill. There was the Box Tops, Steppenwolf, Canned Heat, a lot of big people.
Canned Heat.
Yeah, Canned Heat. And I watched Canned Heat, and he took a bass solo. And I went, that's what I need to do. I don't know what it was about it, but it was melodic, it was pounding, and now my celebrated bass solo, which is 6.5 minutes long, is excellent.
You see, that's,
and it's really hard.
So we started off as fans. Suzi Quatro comes on. We've got, it's that era, it's the glam rock era, and we've got Suzi Quatro that's coming on, the rock chick, and a part of you thinks, well, it's a gimmick, it's a marketing gimmick. I understand that. Then, actually sitting with Lenny years ago, he said, oh, you want to watch this, see if she can play or not? And we're on YouTube. Apparently, when you were touring Behind the Iron Curtain, on YouTube, you were doing gigs. You did a gig, but the local politicians, because it was all communist in those days, I think it was in Prague, had actually filled the front rows with political people,
I remember
so that they weren't going to be jumping up and down going, Suzi Quatro, Suzi Quatro.
But they were anyway.
And you had, your fans were like way at the back.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what happened to the playlist, whether they said, no, this one, not this one, this one. You did a bass solo on there. We're going to feature that in a minute, some of that. That bass solo, if anybody thinks that Suzi Quatro can't play the bass, that bass solo is outstanding. It's you, the drummer's working with you, Lenny's basically sitting back, you're doing the whole thing on your own.
It's just me and the drums,
The finger work and the speed of the finger work and the feel, the emotion, it is perfect.
Well, if you're going to feature something, play a bit of that and then play the up-to-date version because it's back in the show for the past 2 years.
Oh, really? You're still doing it?
That solo. Everybody from about 3 or 4 years ago, it just, how the universe throws it at you. I kept hearing from various people, why aren't you doing that solo anymore? The reason is, with different drummers, you had to slightly adjust the solo.
Right.
And I had an asthmatic drummer who has since passed away, and he couldn't keep up with that, so I had to adjust it. And finally, I have a drummer now who can do that. So I started to think about putting it back in the show, and I was thinking about it because I love that solo. And my husband said the magic words. It was about 2 years ago. He said, why aren't you doing that solo anymore, Suzi? That's fantastic. Oh, you can't play like that anymore.
You must be shattered when you finish it.
You can't play that way anymore.
You're getting on a bit, Dee. You need to slow down.
And I went, pardon me? And the next gig, it was in the show. And it stops the show. You get people with their mouth hanging open. It is quite a solo. I challenge bass players to do that.
Oh, blimey.
I do, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I play the same speed. I have no problem with it. And I'm proud of that solo because that developed through the years.
Bands that you like Now, from your era, and I know you're still in touch with a lot of them, you've got people like Alice Cooper, who you were very close to, very good friends, and you toured with him. Slade,
Yep.
which I believe you supported Slade originally.
That was my very first gig with my band.
Sweet.
Mickey got it. Yes, Sweet. I made an album with Andy Scott and Down Powell, Quatro, Scott and Powell. Yep.
Mud.
Yep.
Bands today, is there any band today or any singer today that you really think they really stand out?
You tend to stick back with your time, but there are good people around. I mean, Adele is a fabulous singer. I love Ed Sheeran's writing, I have to say. He's what I call clever writer. I like Coldplay very much. Foo Fighters. Which one is Flea in, the bass player?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He's...
You like him, yeah?
Yeah.
Good bass player?
Great
Is he as
bass.
good as you?
Yes. And he would agree. Funny enough, I heard some tracks from him, and I was listening to them play, and the bass stuck out, and I clocked it, the style, and about a year later, I was listening to the radio, and a track came on, and I turned, it might have even been to Richard, and I said, that's got to be Flea. And he said, it is. So I clocked his style. And I have a certain style.
Yes.
And it's a cross between what I see, boogie and jazz. Because I do a lot of jazz runs, but they're within the boogie frame.
Right.
And other drummers have come up and said that to me. Cheap Trick's drummer came up.
Oh, you were touring with Cheap Trick?
Yeah, what a great band. Excellent. And he came up to me and said, I watched your show last night. And we were talking about the communication between bass and drums, which is so important.
Absolutely.
And he said, I love how you turn to your drummer when you're doing. I said, well, you have to. I said, I'm not out in front of the drummer. I said, we're a unit, And I say it on stage when I introduce the musicians, that without the bass and the drums, and I say, you have diddly shit. Because everything else is a color.
Right.
The bass and drums is your engine. I really feel it strongly about
the canvas.
That. Yeah.
So what's your least favourite song? Which song do you hate? Now, just to give you an excuse, if you wanted to say one of your top hits, because I remember the Rolling Stones were absolutely sick of Jumping Jack Flash at once. They said, we're never going to do this again, because there must be a song that you just like, I'm never going to do that
I try not
anymore.
to ever feel that way about any of them. I'm not one of those artists that goes, I can't do these hits anymore. I don't feel that way.
Least favourite, though? You hate that question, don't you?
No, I'm trying to think which one I dislike so much. Rock Hard is a good song, and it was in the charts. But that one doesn't thrill me like the other ones do. And I've taken it out to make room for other stuff now. Like I had to put 2 of the Face to Face with KT stuff in. So that one went out. Roxy Roller that Mickey produced, I wasn't crazy about that. Yeah. I like all our stuff.
Good.
I don't ever hate. If I have a hate, it wouldn't be in the show. One of them I didn't like for a long time, which is now in the show, was Daytona Demon. Because every time, back in the old days, it was in 73, every time we tried to add it to the program, it just didn't sound right. And I don't know why. And finally, Reiner kept saying, this is a big hit for you. So I kind of gave it to my big 9-piece band with the horns. And I said, let's see if we can make this work. And adding the horns made it work. So now it's in the show.
All these years, 60 years in music, you have good times, you have bad times. You're touring a lot, but sometimes you're touring all the time. You're going to strange places. You're not exactly tall, but I understand that Lenny doubled as your bodyguard.
Yeah, he was there.
There are fans, and obviously there are different kinds of fans. So the 99% of your fans will be people who just love the music that you do. They just go back in time. It's just Suzi Quatro. I need, because they appreciate your skill. They love the music. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, go on Facebook now because we've got social media, which makes you a lot more accessible and can be dangerous. The 1% and the 99% who send you a message, genuinely love you, and you reply, presumably they'll get a reply, don't get ignored. You're a very polite lady, and I happen to know that. that 1%, the scary ones.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because it must be kind of scary when somebody goes from, "Hi, Suzi, I love your music," to, "I want to be your best friend.
Yeah, that happens.
You have this effect on me. My life won't be the same unless you're in my life." And you can get to the stage where this possessiveness, it's smothering, first of all, but it's got to be very, very intimidating.
It's not intimidating, it's annoying. Because and it could be scary. Because you don't know when you get these kind of people that are a little bit unhinged, for want of a better word. I do try to be polite. I do try to be kind. I try to give people what they need from me because it's an obligation that goes along with being
but
famous.
Don't you think if you're doing that, are you not feeding them?
If
you're doing that and responding to them.
Yes.
But you must stop at some point because you must realise this is a stalker, and you don't want to be feeding them
It's when it
anymore.
turns. It's when it turns. Like a lot of times people will write to me. This happened a few times. Recently it happened. They write to me, big long thing, and I'll do a 2-sentence answer. So it keeps it concise. Boom, boom, boom. And I even say things like, I write to a lot of people like you. I'm obligated to. If fans ask me questions, I try to answer them. And then there comes a point where you see that there's
a pattern.
A pattern. So I've now opted out. I've had to opt out before. This particular person, I've opted out now. No names, because it's happened before. I was guilty of being kind.
Yes.
Is that maybe guilty?
No, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
That's what I'm saying. So sometimes you get this happen, and when that does, you got to know where it is and what it is and put a stop to it, which is what I've done.
But you also, from what I understand, within your, for want of a better word, organisation, the people around you, you actually have, and they rally around. And you actually do have, because of these people, and it's always a tiny minority that screw it up for everybody else, you actually do have a procedure which you've used in the past.
Yes.
Where if push comes to shove, you know exactly the right legal way to deal with it, and you know exactly the right legal people that have got experience dealing with it.
If it comes to that and you have to go legal, then of course you do what you should do. I wouldn't do anything wrong, but I would take what I have and say, this is bothering me, and do I need to do anything, and blah, blah, blah. But I try to keep that element out of my life. Sometimes it sneaks in. And if it is a stalker attitude, they're very clever. And Reiner always says, I'm like a babe in the woods. And don't you dare shake your head, Jess. a babe in the woods, that I don't see things coming. And I actually don't. Because I assume that people are there for the right reasons. I don't see it. And then I do see it. And when I see it properly, I go berserk. I do. Now you can shake your head.
The good thing is here, where you live, wherever it happens to be, which we don't need to say.
Nope.
But you have your son next door. You have a very good relationship because you've lived here for so long.
Yes.
With all the people locally. So you are very well.
I'm well protected.
Yeah, well insulated from weirdos.
And this house itself is like Fort Knox, so nobody comes here uninvited. Let's put it that way.
Thank God I had an invitation.
I will not let any of these people who are kind of unhinged and want more from me than what I'm prepared to give. I don't let them ruin the way that I relate to my fans.
Good.
I won't let that happen. I just won't let them do it. Otherwise, they've won.
Yes, that's very true. Very, very true. You're writing again. You're working, I believe, starting again on a new album.
Yes.
You've just finished, I think the last one you did was with Katie Tunstall.
Yes, Face to Face, yeah.
As a listener, we all know Katie Tunstall, but actually Katie Tunstall's favourite tracks for me were where she did Bob Dylan songs. She covered several in a tribute, and she did an amazing version of Simple Twist of Fate.
Oh, nice.
You're taking Suzi Quatro, a superstar, for want of a better word, aging superstar.
I like that word. It's okay.
Aging's okay. Can I say aging? And you take Katie Tunstall, who's also a superstar. Mm-hmm. How easy is it for you to work together?
We work together so easily. We met up. I was watching a rough cut of my documentary, and there she was, and I didn't know that she was a fan of mine. I liked her. So we engineered a meeting. We met up. We had lunch. We got along fine. She sent me a track. She sent me what was the track? Overload. And we wrote that remotely together. She said, "Would you like to write a track?" I said, "Yes." Then I wrote a kind of hot set.
Thanks to the internet.
Yeah, on the internet. Then I said, "Something's happening here." She said, "I agree." I said, "Why don't you come down?" She came down. We ended up on that carpet barefoot, and we just started to talk. Everything spread out. The guitar, the bass, all the song stuff, her little recording unit. Talk, 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 talk. And all of a sudden, at a magical moment, we both picked up our instruments, and there was a song right in front of us.
Wow.
And this happened all the way through the album.
Shine a Light.
Shine a Light, one of my favorite songs. We wrote that out on the patio. But the first song we wrote on the carpet was Truth Is My Weapon. And Richard happened to be here. He's making coffee as we were putting it down on a little machine there. And he came running the length of the house, and he went, "What's that?" And I said, "It's a song we just wrote." He went, "You just wrote it?" So apparently the magic was there right from day one.
She has a very clean, for want of a better word, pure voice.
She does. I love her voice.
Fine voice. It doesn't vary. It doesn't. It's a very.
It's one level, and this is what it is, and she uses it, and we were cut from the same cloth.
So, will you do more with her? Do you think?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it was just so nice what we did. You know, everybody loved it. They didn't like the album; they loved the album.
I heard a story. I don't know. It may have been a rumor that at some point you would do a track with the person who was your biggest fan that used to wait for you in hotel hallways, Joan Jett.
Actually, she was going to be on The Devil in Me, and I wanted her on one track, and she liked 3, and I said, "I don't want you on 3, I want you on 1." And then COVID came in.
Yes.
And her recording studio in New York that she uses, he went down with COVID. So then we had a deadline, and then we couldn't do it. But now I've sent her a track to do on this album, and her manager has written back and said, "Love the track. I'll get back to you as soon as I can." So she probably will be on this one. And I think Alice is going to do a track with me. And there's a couple other people I'm going to work with. I'm going to probably be doing something with Cyril, who is in all the charts all around the world with the techno version of Stumbling In.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A techno version?
He flew from Darwin to Perth to see me live.
Really?
And my opening word, you know how famous I am for opening words to people. And he came backstage to meet me, and I said, "Hi." He said, "Hi." I said, "You stole my song." And then I repeated it at 5-minute intervals. "You stole my song."
You just, a couple of weeks ago, returned from Australia. Now, it's because I work doing what I do. When I see videos of gigs, especially of musicians who've been in the business for a long time, been around for a long time, quite often you look at the video clips of the audience, and the cameraman is quite clever because he
makes it look big.
It look like it's absolutely round, but actually occasionally the camera will span out and you see like there's only like 100 people there.
Exactly.
And there's a big gap around them.
Yeah.
You were playing to massive audiences.
20,000 sometimes.
Still.
Fantastic.
Still.
I think it was Richard that made the comment, which goes back to the Stalker, as I came out of the Palladium, and they were crowded around the car like crazy, so many people. And Richard said, we got in the car finally after doing the selfies and the signing and the this and that, got in the car to go. And Richard said, "Mom, you're 73, and all those people are still waiting at the stage door for you." I said, "Shh, don't tell anybody." No, I do announce my age on stage.
Suzi, we've got to let you go because you've got a lot more to do.
Yeah.
Plus, we need coffee refills as well. If you hadn't been a musician, what would you have been?
A professional stalker. No, I'm teasing. I would have.
He's laughing his head off over there.
I'd be good at it.
No, you'd have to grow a bit, but you'd be
well, they
fine.
wouldn't even see me coming. I'm so small. I would have gone definitely into psychology.
Psychology?
Because I'm very interested in the human mind, and I'm very good at reading people, and everybody tells me their problems. Because
Dr. Suzi?
I am Dr. Quatro at Cambridge University.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So, Dr. Quatro. Or I would have been a criminal lawyer.
Or a criminal?
And I would have, no, not a criminal, but I would have been a criminal lawyer. I would have been good at that.
So you missed your vocation, ended up just playing music.
There you go.
Thank you so much for letting me talk to you today.
My pleasure.
We've covered some great questions, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
You didn't ask the best one.
What was it like to be the first woman in the rock and roll world?